we've come to the start of yet another Business and Markets with Let the Bell ring in Lagos, in Johannesburg, and elsewhere on the African continent. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, my colleague in South Africa, Tuletu. It's good to see you. How the weekend was great.
Good morning, Boston. It was a lovely and restful weekend indeed. Looking forward to the week ahead.
Good evening, good morning, everyone. And good morning to all our viewers, wherever you're watching these, if it's evening time, whatever. Of course, you've got to start the Monday with the rest of the world. This is how we're kicking off on the west coast of the African continent, just giving you a sense of where the markets were. But let's start from Cairo, where the markets always start ahead of the rest of us on Sunday. 3.26% on the downside for the Cairo stock market. Main index, that's the EGX 30, below the 26,000 reading. On Friday, we've got a bit of a mixed thank God Friday, Nigerian market down just slightly 0.02%. But on a week-on-week basis, the market was heavily down at 1.3% on a week-on-week basis. The BRVM shifted just about 19 basis points down from 220 on the composite, while the Kenya stock market was up 1.3%. That's a very solid Thursday for the Kenyan market. Friday was a public holiday for tree planting, and President Ruto meeting with officials of the IMF trying to secure new deals with Washington and all of that. Of course, as we had the All Africa Media Leaders Summit over there in Nairobi for Thursday and Friday. So the market in Nairobi will be reopening for the new week, starting today, the 13th of day of the week. Of course, next door in Kigali will be later in the week with thousands of African CEOs, the media and others, policymakers, investors meeting for the Africa CEO Forum starting on Thursday. The Johannesburg stock market continued to remain in the green, 1.2%. Friday, 78,464. Those are your market roundup in the manner of speaking for last week, and just to get Sunday started in Cairo. But let's move on and check through some of the biggest news. With the East Africa, we've gotten news coming through with the Central Bank of Kenya planning a new bond platform for hustlers. For those who may want to invest in government securities, but not have the deep pocket of hundreds of dozens of millions of shillings to do that. It's a little bit like the savings bond, which the Nigerian government introduced just a couple of years ago to target retail investors. So if you just got a few thousands of shillings and whatever, the central bank has a new bond window for you to get on in the game and bring whatever it is to the market. And you can just make some decent yield off the back of the government if you get into the hustlers bond, whatever your hustle is in Nairobi and the rest of Kenya. Islamic Bank of Kenya posting 3.9 billion, roughly 4 billion shillings in first quarter net earnings. Profit, the first quarter numbers as well as full year 2023 earnings still coming through across the continent in the manner of speaking. In Tanzania, the Dar Truck Assembly Plant is looking to get tax breaks with the Special Economic Zone looking to boost green energy. But there's a whole lot to cover from the East African region as we start the new Business and Markets week. Let's take you to West Africa very quickly, bringing in some of the biggest headlines with the Nigeria Securities and Exchange Commission issuing new rules on the issuance and allotment of for private placements, companies that are not publicly listed on the exchange. That's also something that came in through over the weekend with the SEC looking to protect investors' funds. All the rules you can read up. In the meantime, the Nigerian Securities and Exchange, Nigerian Exchange is working with the Ethiopian Securities Exchange, a new exchange on rule book for the market. That's going to be an event later this week on the 16th. Keep that in mind. You can check that up online and look through what's been discussed. And I'm just looking to start making mobile phones, laptops, and what have you. That's according to the Institute of Economic Research. While Ghana's EVAT, which was launched sometime last year, says it has done about 58% revenue in that pilot phase. And Africa Finance Corporation has backed Senegal road project or road network with about 381 million euros. The AFC midwife that funding support for Senegal. And finally, in West Africa, Ghana inflation dipped very slightly to about 25% last month in April because food inflation decelerated slightly, and that affected the headline figure. Let's go to Southern Africa, and that's where Tuletu is waiting in the wings. Let me run you through quickly a few items we have on this side of the divide or of the Atlantic. South Africa won the legal battle over $52 million World War II salvage silver, while the GSE listed Spy Groups going for a secondary listing on A2X. That's going to happen pretty soon to provide opportunities for retail investors and others to be part of Spy Group, which is a retail chain in South Africa. While the country has big plans to move away from coal, it's going to be a multi-billion-dollar project being worked on. In Zimbabwe, a 200,000 ZiG fine is for anyone who violates the trading rules of the official exchange rate. That's according to the central bank, while the IMF has caught Zambia's growth due to impact of the devastating drought that we're seeing in President Ichilema's country. Those are the headlines from here. Let me throw in very quickly. I got another bell for the Southern African market. Taking it up from here to Leto.
Yes, thank you, Boasen. I will also be touching a little bit on what's happening in Zambia in terms of the IMF's decision to cut the GDP numbers. But for the focus last week the focus was mainly on Mozambique. The country's ruling party made a surprise choice for its next leader and presidential candidate. Daniel Chapo will lead Frelimo at the October election. He will set his sights on rebounding efforts to revive the investment drive in Mozambique. Still on Mozambique, the country is trying to convince Total Energies to resume a $20 billion natural gas export project. Construction was stalled in 2021 after an assault by Islamic State-linked insurgents that left hundreds dead in the town closest to the site in the northern Cabo Delgado province, if you remember correctly. And then still on Mozambique, Mozambique will also lay down legislation on how to govern revenue from its natural gas exports. Introducing this law is a key part of an economic program with the IMF. And then, Boasen, as you mentioned, that the IMF slashed Zambia's GDP forecast following its country visit. The reason for this, of course, was the drought crisis. Zambia has also been pummeled by successive shocks to the country's economy, including a protracted debt restructuring exercise. With all this pressure, economists are now expecting the country's monetary authority to opt to combat the inflationary pressures by tightening the policy rate later this month. As we move to the DRC, the IMF expects Congo to expand by nearly 5% this year after growing just 8% in 2023. DRC inflation slowed again in April. Banque Centrale du Congo's latest economic notes states that the CPI is expected to trend lower this year compared to the previous year, while GDP growth in the DRC is anticipated to come out above the average for sub-Saharan Africa. The bank also projects that headline print to inflation to average 11.7% in 2024 compared to a very high 23.8% recorded the previous year. It forecasts CPI inflation will fall to an average of 7% in 2025. Moving swiftly to Malawi, where corruption charges against Vice President Saulos Chilima have been dropped. And last but not least, Namibia saw its inflation pick up slightly in its April print.
Interesting week. We got a whole lot on that plate across the continent, but I'm sure we have a very busy week as we get it started right now. Walk me through what's on the top of your calendar there from Southern African region, and sometimes takes a bit of a wider picture for the rest of the continent. Go ahead, Tuletu.
Yes, indeed. Today, the Vodacom Group will announce its FY 2024 earnings. The company delivered revenue growth of 26.3%, driven strong by growth in fintech in Egypt and international, which more than offset the softer performance in South Africa. And then still on Monday, Bloomberg will publish its May economic surveys for Angola, Zambia, Mozambique, and Botswana. On Tuesday, the MTN Group will give us its first quarter update. Also on Tuesday, the Qatar Economic Forum will kick off in Doha. This is from Tuesday until the 16th of May. The forum is held as more than 50 nations, which represent half of the world's population, brace themselves for elections. We know that geopolitics have been a crucial issue this year, and the forum is hoping to look into the best ways to mitigate these challenges. And then also what's happening this year, South Africa's ruling party, the ANC, will have to brace itself for the quarterly labor force statistics numbers that will be coming out on Tuesday. We know that youth unemployment in South Africa has been disastrous, reaching levels above 70% when using the expanded definition. This is a very critical issue, as the youth actually holds a very strong vote in South Africa, and the ANC's inability to mitigate this problem will actually affect it at the upcoming elections on May 29. On Wednesday, we'll see the Bank of Zambia announce its interest rate decision. All eyes will be on the Africa CEO Forum that will be hosted in Kigali, Rwanda on 16 and 17 May by the Jeune Afrique Media Group in partnership with the World Bank's IFC. This is, of course, on Thursday and Friday. More than 2,000 African and international CEOs, investors, and public sector leaders will gather under the theme "At the Table" or on the menu. This year's theme envisions a future in which the African private sector will be given more space in the development agenda of the African continent. And then last but not least, on Friday, Banco Nacional de Angola will announce its interest rate decision.
We've got a whole lot this week from Zambia and Angola as far as rate decisions concerned. But there's a whole lot more on the economic front, including corporate earnings news from, as you said, from Vodacom, Africa's biggest carrier, is also in the news, as well as MTN Group in South Africa. We'll see how all these numbers will come through. Thank you so much, Tuletu. This is to your opening bell in today's Southern Africa. Thank you very much for giving us a bird eye view, what you call an helicopter view of things, what to expect this week. Let me just throw in the North African corridors headline news as we wrap up the show with Contact Financial says it's finishing its first securitization issuance of about 1.04 billion Egyptian pounds. Danone, Egypt, one of the biggest industrial concerns, says it's partnering with a Shift electric vehicle to electrify 50% of its fleet. And Duatua, World Bank initiative, is looking to empower rural parts of Morocco, one of the biggest economies north of the continent. And Etihad Airways says it's posting 9 times first quarter profit jump, and that's coming through from Tunisia. That's one of the companies listed there on the Tunis bourse. These numbers will keep coming in through to the end of this month and beyond. So keep your eyes on those numbers. Thank you, everyone, for watching today's edition of the show. This is your Frontier Open, the boss number 5, and of course with Tuletu Azwane in South Africa. Have a great week, Tuletu.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone, and bye for now.